Hey everybody, Sean here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today in Skul, the Hero Slayer. Now, when this game originally launched, the player could access something called the dev menu by plugging in a USB keyboard, and using this dev menu pretty much made all of the achievements super duper easy. As of patch 1.4.0, this ability has since been removed from the console versions of the game, so that's going to be the Xbox versions as well as the PlayStation versions. Thankfully, there's going to be a workaround if you are within the Xbox achievement ecosystem. However, that being said, there is not going to be one for the PlayStation Trophy ecosystem other than playing an earlier build of the game. And basically what this workaround is to just play the Windows Store version. The game is going to be a Play Anywhere game, so if you own the Xbox version, you are able to download this on the PC without having to rebuy it. A word of warning, buyer beware and caveat emptor. Because this feature has been taken out of the console version, it may or may not be also removed from this version in the near future. So make sure you keep that in mind if you are coming from such a future. So with all of that out of the way, it's time to start up the game. This guide is going to walk you through all of the main story achievements, and it's going to basically show you how to get through all of the boss fights. There are going to be a few miscellaneous achievements, but we'll cover them in separate guides just to stay focused. So once you hit the enter key to start up the game, you're going to be introduced to this cutscene. Just mash the enter key to skip through this, and then once you get control of your character, the first thing you have to make sure you do before using the dev menu is you need to make sure you get past the tutorial. So thankfully the tutorial is going to be rather short. First thing it's going to teach you to do is to dash with the B button. Once you get to here, it's going to teach you to jump with the A button. You are allowed to double jump, so make sure you do so to get up to this tree. Once you meet this skeleton, he's going to give you your weapon in the form of this bone. You are going to attack with the X button, and then once you have all that, make sure you proceed forward. You can drop down by hitting A on a platform, hit the Y button to enter the door, and then once you get to this screen, you're going to have your first fight here. So you're going to fight these two knights. Make sure you take both of them out. After you do, you're going to have to rescue the witch from this prison. Just smack the cage until she breaks free, and then she's going to give you this little cutscene. Once that's over, you're going to continue your journey to the right, and then you're going to head through this next door, and then you're going to be on the next screen. Move a little forward, and you should be introduced to your first armor set right here. The guard captain is going to basically pass this on to you, and then that should make you super duper stronger. Keep proceeding to the right, and then you're going to mow down this set of enemies, and then head through the next door. And then once we get here, we're going to get ready to fight the tutorial boss. So just keep working your way to the right. He's going to stop you right here. He's going to be this ogre. Make sure you take him out. It can be a little challenging, especially if you are new to the game, but it's nothing too impossible. It is the tutorial after all. Make sure you just keep slashing him with X with your sword, and then make sure you use your trigger abilities to throw fireballs and stuff. Once you finally take him out, you are going to basically be done with the tutorial. You're going to get this last cutscene where you meet the last boss of the game. Once all of the cutscene stuff is over, we should get access to the castle, and the reason we needed to do the tutorial was to avoid any problems that arise later from sequence breaking. So it's very important that we get the tutorial out of the way. So now that that's taken care of, we are actually going to get into how to use the dev console. You're going to need a keyboard for this, and your keyboard is going to need the function keys. You are going to want to press the F2 key in order to bring up the dev menu. Another small caveat with playing the Windows version of this game, at least on version 1.4.0, is the dev menu is going to be in Korean. It was originally all in English in the original launch version of the game. That being said, it should still be pretty easy to navigate if you know what you are doing. So once you have the dev menu open, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you click on this box right here. It's going to be the far left of the second row. Once in here, make sure you click on the head tab, and then you want to make sure you click on the upper leftmost item, which is going to be the Archlich. Make sure you click on that, and that should spawn the item. Then we're going to give ourselves some additional items in order to make things even easier. Make sure you click on the item tab, and then scroll down the list until you find the item known as the Ring of Wind. Once you find it, make sure you give yourself about 10 of them. So just keep clicking on it a bunch of times, and then that should spawn in a bunch that we need. And then finally, once we have all of those, we're going to go to the last tab, which is going to be Essence. And then we're going to scroll up on the list, and then we're going to find a specific thing. We're going to find this one. It's going to be Kiriz. So Kiriz. Click on that. You're only going to need one of those. Once you have all of those, make sure you hit the F2 key to close out the dev menu. Then you need to make sure you pick up the items that you just spawned. You can use your controller and just mash the Y button, and that should set you up with some pretty high-powered gear. Once you are all spec'd out, make sure you hit the F2 key again to bring up the dev menu. Make sure you click on the upper left to bring you back to the main menu. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure you go down to the bottom left. Make sure you click the button with the 3 in the middle. This is basically going to give you God mode, no cooldown, and plus 10,000 health. In the original version of the dev menu, these were going to be 3 separate commands. However, it's combined into a single command for this version. Then we're going to need 2 very specific skills. Make sure you go to the bottom right button, and this is going to be reroll skill. You want to make sure you keep clicking on it until you get these 2 skills. They can be in any order, but what you want is the chains and then this thing that looks like a bow and arrow. So once you get these 2, you should have everything you need from the dev menu in terms of equipment. Then what you want to do is you want to make sure you click on the button in the upper left right here. This is going to be the map list. It should allow you to warp to any level of the game. Then what you want to do is you want to make sure you click on the Chapter 1 subheading right here, and then you want to scroll through the list until you get to the very last one. It should be 2/00 right here. Make sure you click on that, and that should put you at the Chapter 1 boss fight. Now, in order to get all of the achievements, we are going to have to beat each boss without taking any damage. Thankfully, we were able to spec ourselves out with some pretty overpowered gear, so all of the boss fights should be a cinch with our super special awesome abilities. So let the first boss spawn in, and the strategy for most of these fights is to just hit right bumper, which should freeze time, and then what you want to do is you want to make sure you just spam both of your trigger abilities. Then when time unfreezes, the boss is going to take a ton of damage. Once they take a hit, make sure you refreeze time if they still have health. If not, just let them die. And you just want to keep this up until they go down. Some fights have multiple forms, so make sure you keep that in mind. If the boss's health bar fills back up, make sure you do the same thing. Right bumper to freeze time, throw as many attacks out as you can, and then once time unfreezes, they should take a ton of damage. Be a little careful, you still can take damage, which will obviously void the beat the boss without taking any damage achievement. So you do still have to be a little strategic, but again, our super special awesome abilities makes it super duper easy. Once you manage to defeat the first boss without taking any damage, you should get the achievement for beating him and the achievement for beating him without taking a hit. So that's Rescue Elder Int for 12 gamer score and Quick Movements for 89 gamer score. Once the boss is defeated and we have our achievements, it's time to move on to the second chapter boss. So hit F2 and then make sure you click on Chapter 2. Then what you want to do is you want to do the same thing. Look for the last checkpoint, which is going to be 2/01 in this instance, and that should warp you over to the second boss fight. You are going to get a little cutscene, and then you're going to fight the Chapter 2 boss in the form of the Leiana Sisters. For this boss fight, we're going to change up the strategy a bit. Instead of using our super special awesome form, we are actually going to hit left bumper to revert back to our normal form. The reason for that is our normal attack is going to be way more effective for this fight. So once you turn back to your normal form, again, you are going to use right bumper to freeze time. Once one of the 2 sisters lands, what you want to do is you want to make sure you freeze time, go up to them, and then just keep spamming the X button, and then just keep smacking them until time runs out. Once time runs up, make sure you back up so you don't take a hit, and then just let the next sister land. Be a little mindful on where they land. Obviously, you don't want them to land on you, but you are basically just going to cheese them to death using the freeze and smack method. Like most of the other bosses in this game, keep in mind they are going to have multiple forms, so make sure you do take note of that. Don't let your guard down until the fight actually ends and you take out each one of their multiple forms. Taking both of the sisters out should get you both achievements. First one for defeating them, which is going to be the end of the Gold Main Knights for 30 gamer score. And then for beating them without taking a hit, you should be good for Master of Speed for 89 gamer score. And that should allow us to move on to the next fight. Make sure you skip past all of the cutscene stuff, and then once you get control of your character, hit that F2 key to bring the dev menu back up, and then we're going to move on to the Chapter 3 boss. So click on the Chapter 3 tab, and then make sure you go to the last thing, which is going to be 2/0. That should warp you over to the Chapter 3 boss. Make sure you close the menu, and then you are going to get this cutscene followed up with some dialogue. Once he stands up and actually transforms into the boss, we are going to start the fight. Make sure you quickly back up, and then you want to hit left bumper to transform back into your super special awesome form, right bumper to freeze time, then just get underneath him and start spamming both of your trigger attacks, and then you are just going to cheese him to death, just like the other bosses. So that one should have been super easy because the boss is going to be on only one side of the screen. Once you manage to take out the Chimaera, you should be good for False Goddess Disappear for 30 gamer score. And then for beating it without taking a hit, you should be good for Deadly Power for 89 gamer score. Then we're going to get a pretty lengthy cutscene right here. Just let that play out because we are going to need to wait before we can get control of our character again. Once all of the cutscene stuff wraps up and you are back in control of your character, make sure you hit that F2 key to bring the dev menu back up. We are going to go to the Chapter 4 tab. Make sure you scroll all the way to the bottom and then look for the last option, which is going to be 2/0. Click on that, and that should bring you right before the Chapter 4 boss. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do a little bit of a walk in order to get up to the boss, so make sure you just play through this little platforming bit. There are no enemies or anything along the way, so it's just jumping. Hopefully you can manage that. So just keep heading up, and then once you set foot into the next room, we are going to meet the next boss and then have a little cutscene and dialogue. Once the fight actually starts, what you want to do is make sure you freeze time right away and then start spamming your trigger abilities. The target you want to aim for are going to be the two little pillars. There's one on the left and there's one on the right in case you don't know what you are trying to attack in all of the chaos. Be very careful not to get hit by the boss, obviously, so just make sure you take your time and then make your way to each side of the screen and blow up the two pillars with the orbs on top of them. Then you're going to start the second phase of the fight. The boss is going to hover up, then you're going to get all these platforms. This one's going to be a little tricky, so make sure you be very careful here. You want to make sure you try to make your way up to the middle platform. So I recommend freezing time before you start making your ascent. That way the boss doesn't creep up on you. And then just slowly make your way up, and you want to spot where the boss is going to spawn. He's always going to start in the middle right here. And then once he starts in the middle, make sure you freeze time and then get to your trigger spam. Just keep cheesing him to death right here in this sweet spot, and hopefully you can get him before he starts moving. Once you take care of that, you should be good for both achievements. The Fall of the Leonia Order, that's for beating this boss. That's going to be for 30 gamer score. And if you manage to do it without taking a hit, you should be good for the Levitator for 89 gamer score. Then it's going to be on to the final boss of the game. So whenever you are ready, F2 key to bring up the dev menu. Make sure you go over to the Chapter 5 tab. Then which one of these, you want to make sure you click on this one. So not the last one, but the second to last one. So 1/0. That should put you in the final boss room against this familiar face. Then you're going to get your typical final showdown cutscene stuff. Once he moves over to this side of the screen and the battle begins, make sure you just keep up with the same strategy that we've been using. Hit that right bumper to freeze time and just start cheesing him to death using your trigger abilities. You're going to get a cutscene where you basically break his sword and he's going to transform into his second form, but the strategy is going to be exactly the same as before. Once you get control of your character, right bumper to freeze time, and then just start spamming your trigger abilities. You are probably going to have to do it twice in this instance, so be very careful on the time in between. The reason for that is he has an attack that starts raining golden swords down from the sky, and they kind of appear in a random order, so be very careful not to accidentally be hit by one. So don't get too careless on this, but you should be able to beat him super duper quickly. Then you're going to get one more transformation cutscene where he turns into his third form, and you fight him in the basement of the platform that you are standing on. And just like the previous two forms, it's going to be exactly the same. Right bumper to freeze time, then spam your trigger attacks, and then he should go down super duper easily in one last stand. Then once he goes down, you should be good for the achievements for beating him. We should be good for 3 achievements. First one, just for beating him, is the final battle of the first hero. That's going to be for 30 gamer score. You also get the achievement for beating him without taking a hit. That's going to be the God of Battle for 89 gamer score. And also for beating him without rescuing any NPCs, you should be good for Cold-Blooded, and that's going to be for 30 gamer score. Then just skip your way through the last cutscene, so just mash that button in order to get through all of the dialogue and stuff, and then just let them talk it out. And we should be done with our first main playthrough of the game. Once you get your end game results, make sure you hit the X button to return to the castle. Then you're going to let one more cutscene play out, and then you're going to get the end credits. Once you get past the end credits, you're going to basically be kicked back to the title screen. Once you are back on the title screen, make sure you hit any key in order to start up the game. You are going to load back into the castle, and you should be given the Go Home achievement. That's for returning to the castle for the first time after beating the game, and this one is going to be for 30 gamer score. And then we actually have one more thing to do, which is to beat the final boss in our normal form. So in order to do that, we are going to bring up the dev console again. So make sure you hit that F2 key. Make sure you re-enable God mode, no cooldown, and the 10,000 health. So click on the bottom left button, and that should set you up with that. Click on the map select, which is going to be the upper left, and then make sure you click on the chapter 5 tab. Then what you want to do is make sure you click on 1/0. That should put you back at the last boss. Now we are going to have to beat him without using our super special awesome abilities. However, we do have God mode and a ton of health. So we're just going to fight him in our normal little bone form. So because we already have the achievement for beating him without taking a hit, we are able to just play this normally. So just keep going up to him and keep smacking him with your X button attack until he dies. We should have a ton of health thanks to God mode, so you should be able to do this without dying. If for whatever reason you start losing a ton of health, you can always just heal yourself by bringing the dev console back up. But you should have more than enough health to get through all 3 of his forms, and it should be super duper easy. So just keep jumping and smacking him when he gets up in the air, or you can use your projectile attack where you throw your head. Doesn't really matter. You can also take advantage of your double jump, but just keep chipping away at him, and then hopefully you beat him before he lands enough hits on you. But then again, you have the dev console to fall back on. Then, just like last time, he's going to turn into his second form. Again, you just want to keep going up to him and keep smacking him. This one should actually be easier since he kind of stands out here in the open a lot. Watch out for his attacks where he starts raining swords down from the sky, but thankfully he never goes up in the air, so you can just keep walking forward and keep smacking him until he dies. Once you take care of him, we are going to go back into the basement, and then we're going to fight his third form. So let him get back up, and then it's final showdown time. Again, this one's going to be super duper easy since he never jumps up in the air. So just keep going forward and keep smacking him. He's just going to keep charging you. You may or may not be stunned, but just let that wear off. And then once you recover, get back to smacking. And he actually goes down super quickly in his third form. Once he goes down, you should be good for your achievement if you manage to beat him in your normal little bone form. That one's going to be the Skeleton King for 89 gamer score. That's actually going to be the last main storyline achievement that we need, but we have a few more miscellaneous things to take care of. Head over to the far right, hit the Y button to blow up the wall, and then jump into the abyss to get back to the castle. We are going to cover the miscellaneous achievements in subsequent guides, so stay tuned for those, but that's going to wrap it up for now, and that's all there is to it.